In this edition of The Secrets of Koi Keeping, we're going to discuss fish health. This is a really, obviously, massively important topic because if you don't get this side right, you're not going to be a very successful koi keeper. And as with all of these videos gone by, the secrets aren't real secrets. It's just a case of some simple, solid advice that's going to get you through. Now, the real sort of top tip to fish health, being successful at keeping healthy koi, is to be proactive and not to waste any time when you suspect a problem. A lot of problems are very easily solved in the early stages, but if left without treatment or without proper diagnosis, then these simple problems such as a parasite outbreak can become fatal. Most parasites will cause mortalities in great numbers if left alone. So the first real sign is noticing some and identifying key signs around fish health problems. So general sort of parasitic symptoms, fish flashing, fish head standing, where they're literally sort of that way on, or tail standing the other way, laying on the bottom, sort of on the side. These are all signs that something could potentially be wrong and signs that you need to pick it up. Now, you don't have to be a fish health expert or professional to be successful at this. You just have to be proactive and act at the very, the earliest signs. So when it comes to parasites, diagnosis is everything. Don't just go throwing medications in there for the sake of it because you suspect a problem. Parasites are much more sophisticated than they used to be. I remember a time back in my very early days of koi keeping where malachite and formalin seemed to treat everything. Nowadays, you can put malachite and formalin in there and flukes will swim around in it all day long. And likewise, fluke medications won't touch all the other parasites if that's what you are suffering with. So diagnosis is everything. So the biggest tip I would give you, microscopes are really affordable when you actually compare a cost of a basic microscope against the cost of even a cheap koi, to be honest, or having a collection of 4 or 5 cheap koi. It's absolutely nothing. It's easier than ever now as well to get help in diagnosing. So basically all you need to learn in using a microscope is how to use it, basically, to be able to focus properly on the mucus. And when you've got everything in focus, just look for something moving, and then through obviously YouTube or something like that, you could easily find videos to help identify what the problem is. Then you can seek advice on getting the correct medication, or if you know already, just treat accordingly. That is the way that this should be done to avoid excessive medication. Something I don't like doing. Medication itself is a stressful process, so the overuse of them can further create problems, just not a scenario you want to get stuck in. So best advice would be to get your hands on the scope and learn the basics, or if you've got a good working relationship with a dealer, there's more than likely that they'll have services either on site or off site to help support you and something, get something done in that case. But don't delay. That's the biggest thing I can stress here. The minute you suspect a problem, deal with it one way or another, and from that it will be an easy fix, no doubt. The more extreme side of koi health is when we move into the bacteria and sort of viruses area. Now, bacterial problems are one. They're an absolute living nightmare, to be honest with you. And being proactive again here is the case. So, if you suspect parasite problems, you deal with them quickly and get rid of them. If you suspect anything bacterial, so you see any signs and you suspect it could be going down, it's not just an isolated case where a fish has bumped itself, it could truly be going down the bacterial case route, then you absolutely need to get professional diagnosis on that, and quickly. Bacterial problems are incredibly complex, only professional advice and generally antibiotics will be the route to curing them. Don't kid yourself that just adding water-based medications are going to stop a full-blown bacterial infection in its tracks, because it's very rare that they ever do. So don't delay on that one. But the main part of this is being proactive against preventing bacterial problems. So this stems at when buying new koi, because you could potentially introduce it from source like that. So if you go to a dealer's and you notice bacterial problems around the store, walk away. Even that if it's in a different pond, if you see one pond that's struggling or suffering, there could be risk of cross-contamination quite easily, and my advice would be to get well clear of it. Then you've got your system itself. Bacteria are generally, or the nasty bacteria are anaerobic in form, so if your pond is in a bad spot, and you've got heavy loading of debris, possibly in bottom drain runs, in filter systems, something like that, that is going to be a massive problem and potential outbreak there to tip the sort of scales in the favour of the nasty bacteria, the anaerobic groups. Keeping the filter system maintenance, in good order, getting the bottom drains flushed on a regular basis is going to help keep these things at bay. And then tying in with the first part of the video, the parasites, keep the parasites at bay as well. Don't let the likes of Costia be around for a week. It's a nasty parasite. If you catch it within the first few days, you'll more than likely not notice any major problems. If you just decide to leave it and wait a week, by that point it could be really set in. And any longer than that, you can tip the scales where mortalities and then potential secondary bacterial problem are going to be an issue for you. So, don't delay, seriously, because it's the last thing you want to do. And in the case of if you ever have got a bacterial problem, let's say get professional advice, and then even when things are all said and done, you think it's cleared up, you need a good period of time afterwards without introducing anything new, and just make sure that environment is finished and it's long gone before you get to that point. And then we move on to the viruses. So obviously big concerns around the koi industry is KHV, koi herpes virus. This one is, you're relying on everybody being proactive in this whole chain. Everybody has a different quarantine regime and different thoughts on it. And there's, I believe, in my opinion on this, there's a lot of self-responsibility as well as the responsibility of the dealers where you're buying koi from. So from my side of the fence, is something I take incredibly seriously, and it's a process that starts out in Japan, where we work closely with breeders to ensure we know how they're acting, behaving, if there's any fish ever coming on site from external sources, and that their testing regimes are all up to date, and there's no suspected issues. Being there and physically looking at the fish is a big part of that as well. Sounds simple, but it really is important. And then from that, when the koi arrive, go through a rigorous quarantine regime here, and where we have gone down the route of primarily applying a lot of testing, which for us we believe is the most accurate way we can to diagnose if there's anything there before the fish are then moved on to dealers and then on to koi keepers like yourself. So, but even from then, if you need to take some responsibility in the whole chain of protecting your own collection. So it can be advisable or a really great idea to have a separate quarantine system as well, where you can keep the fish a bit longer. Being completely frank about it, there's always a balance for us in the trade between what's really best for the koi and costs. What's really best for the koi probably is if they were kept for 3 to 6 months isolated out, just to make sure they're really, really in top health. It's just not practical a lot of the time. So, that is something you can potentially do as a hobbyist, is to keep those fish isolated away from your main collection for a while. Really make sure it's spot on and that you've got ultimate peace of mind before you introduce it to your main collection. Personally, it's not an absolute necessity that I will trust if you know that basically the chain where the koi have come from, the dealer or the wholesaler behind it, is doing their bit as well. But yeah, we just take every precaution we can at every turn in the road. So that's some really practical tips around some of the main stuff. Obviously husbandry ties into all this, tying back to the proactiveness, keeping a really good maintenance regime, regular water changes, keeping organic levels down, again, making the water healthy. Clay can be a great product to use to help clear particles in the water that can basically be food for bacteria as well. And obviously water testing is a big one, being proactive with your water testing, because the likes of ammonia, it burns fish severely and can cause a lot of damage, which will be hard to recover from. Nitrite, we've got poisoning, brown blood disease from nitrite as well. pH, if you're not keeping a stable KH and pH, you've got the potentials for pH crash there, which can wipe fish out in numbers. So all of these things combined, if you're just keeping on top of them on a regular basis, and you don't need to, you don't need to water test every day. Once a week is more than enough, just to keep an eye on things. Or obviously then if you suspect something, keep on it a little bit more regular, or if there's a problem that you're working through. Healthy fish, inside out is another great, methodology. The food, I believe, plays an absolutely massive part in all this. I'm a massive advocate of sake akari. Not only do I believe it's one of the best koi products ever made, it's just a phenomenal food that delivers phenomenal results. I really do see, since I've been using that again full time here at Koi Wholesale, skin luster improves, body mass, improves. The fish just look healthier. Their appetite is always more stimulated. The colour is so much better. It's just incredible. So picking a really good diet and making sure that they're well fed as well is really crucial to keeping happy, healthy koi. It's not got to be the likes of sake akari. There are other really good foods out there as well, but that stuff, I really couldn't recommend anything better. Is superb. So yeah, keeping on top of the food, the water, your parasites, everything like that is all going to lead you to keep a happy, healthy collection of fish. The last point I would draw attention to is water and incoming water. Water changing is an essential part of keeping a healthy environment, but how you do it is really important to protecting the fish and keeping them healthy. It is essential that one way or another the water in the pond is dechlorinated, ideally running through an inline purifier before it actually gets added to the system. So that way you're removing at the very least the nasty contaminants through the activated carbon that'll be in there. So the chlorines, chloramines, pesticides potentially as well. All kind of things in tap water that are absolutely brutal to the fish, in all honesty, and that you'll want to avoid. Now, personally, my method in koi keeping is to keep water changing to an absolute bare minimum and rely on the system to recycle the water and create a happy ecosystem for the fish to live in. This works really well for me because I believe that the addition of too much fresh water can cause a lot of upset to that environment and that ecosystem. Not only that, if you're not purifying the water properly, and what can go beyond this is the heavy metal stuff that we can't really test for. When you get imbalances there, these things really do tear fish to pieces, and it's a long-term problem as well. Short-term exposure is bad enough, but long-term the effects of heavy metals building up on the gills and within the body, it's just absolutely brutal. So unless you know the full extent of the source water that you're putting in after you've finished treating it and it goes into the pond, I would always choose just to keep it to a bare minimum and basically sort of topping up from evaporation and after your regular filter maintenance as well. That way it's the best to ensure that you're not going to upset that ecosystem too much. You could also, even if you're using a purifier, use a good liquid dechlorinator after, which can have a lot of nice effects on just making sure you've really got everything right after a hefty water change. So there we have it. There's quite a lot covered there, but let's say if you just follow them, it's quite simple. These are easy things to do in all reality, and really basic things you should know how to do on a basic level to be a successful koi keeper and to keep healthy koi. So I hope you found that useful, and we're back with another episode soon.